After reburying the hatchet and all seemed okay, I decided I'd stay another night. It was late in the afternoon, so I set up camp and I would start for home the following morning. The night was uneventful. I made good time the first day, but the weather turned really bad within just a few hours, and so I decided to make camp again and wait it out. I awoke to 2 feet of snow where I was camped, and so decided to dig in and concentrate on survival. I had not planned on making this a camping trip. It was supposed to be very quick, just to return the hatchet and come right back, as I had to return to work. My boss had given me a week off, but I had to use some vacation days early. I had told him there was a family emergency and needed a week. He wouldn't believe me if I told him the truth anyway, so I used a more commonly used excuse. The snowstorm had dissipated in 24 hours, but left an aftermath that I was not prepared for. I brought enough food and water to last 8 days, figuring that would be enough and I could always trap a squirrel or rabbit if I needed to. The deer rifle was in its place on the saddle, and I brought some ammunition for bigger game. I was glad that I conserved supplies on the way up. Now it looks like I might need them. However, I was not prepared for very cold weather. After all, it was still late summer. I did bring a jacket and some extra blankets to use in the tent. After the first day, I decided to try to continue on down the mountain, but my horse was having a hard time walking, and I did not want to take the chance of hurting him. So I found a place to unload him and set up camp for a few days and let this snow melt a little. Every day the snow would melt a little, but every night it would snow again. Not much, but just enough to keep me from going. Or maybe subconsciously I didn't want to go. I had plenty of food and fresh snow for water. A day turned into a week and then a month. I started to enjoy myself a little. As the hours and days passed, I found myself thinking less and less of the world outside of where I was. Just a mere 2 days away and I could be back home and punching a clock 5 days a week. By day I would spend hunting for deer or whatever I could find. By night I rested by the campfire and would plan the next day. I had started to notice that the game was getting harder and harder to find as time went on, so I decided to move camp and try to find a better spot to stay. So in the morning I would strike camp and head deeper into the mountains. I went to bed that night thinking about the things I had left behind, but they didn't seem to matter much anymore. I smiled and drifted off to sleep. All was well with the world and me. My boss would find someone else to do the job and abuse, and I would wake to a peace of mind and body with no regrets. After all, there was nothing to keep me from staying on the mountain indefinitely. So at first light I woke and made breakfast of wild berries and some cooked venison that I had killed and made jerky out of the day before. I had remembered to bring enough salt to keep fresh meat for several days, and it was plenty cold enough to keep the meat from spoiling for a while. I had learned to make jerky at a young age, so I was good to go for an extended time. By now fall had set in, and I had begun to realize that someone was probably looking for me. I had not told anyone where I was going, and as I thought about it, I didn't want anyone to know anyway. It seemed that all things were pointing towards me not coming back, but at the time it was just a week-long trip. I stayed where I was for a while longer, but something was gnawing at me to head even deeper into the mountains. I saved the deer skins as I acquired them and scraped and hung them over the fire every day. It wasn't long and I had made some pretty warm parkas to cover my whole body. Squirrel tails were used for the top and bottom so as not to chafe my neck. I used the tendons from the deer to make twine, and I would tie the skins around my body to keep warm. All things turned into hunting and preparing for winter. I had no longer thought about going back.